You put on the mask, you turn on the voice changer. You are the ultimate meta slasher. While the other guys are stalking summer camps in silence, you're playing mind games. You're testing your victims. You are Ghostface. But let's be brutally honest for a second. You aren't a supernatural demon from hell, and you don't have a healing factor. You are just a highly stressed, incredibly sweaty human being wearing a $15 mass-produced Halloween costume made of 100% unbreathable polyester. It is hot, it is itchy, and the eye holes are covered in a black mesh that completely destroys your depth perception. Other slashers get to teleport or power walk menacingly. You sprint across suburban lawns, and because you can't see anything out of that stupid mask, you spend 50% of your time tripping over lawn chairs, falling over couches, and getting hit squarely in the face with frying pans by terrified high schoolers. You don't have super strength. When the teenager kicks you in the groin, you feel it. When someone slams a heavy oak door on your fingers, you cry a little inside. You are essentially doing a highly illegal, full-contact cardio workout while wearing a wearable sauna. Welcome to your life as Ghostface. It's not a horror movie, it's a workplace safety violation.
Being Ghostface is essentially a psychotic high school group project. And just like every group project in human history, the division of labor is completely broken. One of you is doing 90% of the actual work, and the other one is just showing up at the end to take all the credit. While you are out there in the bushes, twisting your ankle in the dark, getting pepper sprayed, and doing all the intense cardio, your partner is usually sitting in a comfortable chair somewhere just making prank calls. They think they're the mastermind, practicing their dramatic villain monologue in the mirror, while you're the one actively scrubbing blood out of the floorboards and trying to figure out how to hide a hunting knife in a pair of denim jeans. And let's talk about the sheer financial and logistical nightmare of this operation. You aren't a ghost, you are a teenager with an allowance. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to maintain this bit? You have to buy multiple identical costumes, voice changers, and a ridiculous amount of burner phones. Do you know what the roaming charges look like when you're constantly calling people from inside their own closets? You're committing multiple felonies, but the real crime is your monthly cellular bill.
Plus, you have to coordinate all of this around a standard high school schedule. You can't just go on a rampage at noon. You have third period biology. You are literally plotting a complex, multi-tiered revenge conspiracy in between studying for the SATs and asking your mom if you can borrow the minivan for the weekend. People think you have supernatural speed. They think you can teleport. You can't. You were just aggressively sprinting through your neighbors' backyards, jumping over wooden fences, ripping the costume off, pretending to be a normal, innocent teenager for 5 minutes so you have an alibi, and then putting that sweaty, damp polyester robe right back on. And if your partner messes up the timeline, a whole night is ruined. You end up hiding inside a coat closet for 45 minutes. Your knees are locking up, you have a massive cramp in your calf, and you're breathing in your own recycled carbon dioxide, just waiting for your cue to jump out because your idiot accomplice couldn't find a decent parking spot.
Now let's talk about your actual combat mechanics and the sheer physical trauma of your workplace. You don't have a magical, rust-proof machete. You don't have a chainsaw or a custom-made glove with razor blades. You have a standard 6-inch hunting knife that you bought at a local sporting goods store. Do you know how much physical effort it takes to actually use that thing effectively? You have to get uncomfortably close to people who are actively fighting for their lives. You aren't Michael Myers. You can't just effortlessly lift a grown man off the floor by his neck with one hand. You weigh 150 pounds soaking wet. When you tackle someone, it's a coin toss on who actually wins the wrestling match. And because you are just a squishy, mortal human being, your workplace injury report is a medical nightmare. Over the course of a single weekend, you will suffer from severe concussions, cracked ribs, bruised tailbones, and internal bleeding. You aren't shrugging off bullets. You are getting hit in the face with heavy wooden doors, decorative vases, and landline telephones. You are constantly getting drop-kicked down flights of hardwood stairs by teenage girls.
You spend half of your own movie just lying flat on the floor, groaning, waiting for the cartoon birds to clear from your vision, only to get back up, strike a scary pose, and pretend your spine isn't completely realigned. Have you ever tried to stealthily stalk someone while nursing a grade 3 concussion? You have to rely entirely on the element of surprise, but it's really hard to look like the Grim Reaper when you're heavily limping and secretly popping ibuprofen under your mask. Then there is the cleanup.
Real life isn't a movie set. Blood is incredibly messy, it is incredibly sticky, and your cheap black robe is an absolute stain magnet. You don't have a magical, fiery lair in the underworld to do your laundry. You have to take that soaking wet, DNA-covered robe back to your suburban home and figure out how to sneak it into your parents' washing machine on the delicate cycle without your mom noticing. You are trying to be the town's most feared and mysterious serial killer, but you are constantly one accidental laundry mix-up away from getting grounded and given a life sentence in a federal penitentiary.
But the absolute worst part of wearing the Ghostface mask isn't the costume, the laundry, or even the physical trauma. It's the people you are actually trying to kill. If you were Jason or Michael, you'd be hunting absolute morons. You'd get to slowly walk behind teenagers who trip over flat grass, hide in completely obvious closets, and make the worst possible survival choices. But you don't get those victims. You are hunting a generation of hyper-aware, true crime-obsessed teenagers who have seen every single horror movie ever made. They know the tropes. They know the rules. You call them on the phone to ask a scary trivia question, and they aggressively correct your movie tastes, insult your knowledge of the genre, and then hang up on you. When you finally break into their house, they don't cower in a corner, they fight back like they are defending a medieval fortress. They barricade the doors, they set up booby traps, and they grab whatever heavy, blunt object is within arm's reach. You aren't just a hunter, you are a human piñata for the local high school track team.
And heaven forbid your master plan involves going after Sidney Prescott or Gale Weathers. At this point in the timeline, trying to kill Sidney is essentially a suicide mission. She isn't a helpless babysitter. She is an apex predator. She has survived this exact scenario over and over again. She isn't even scared of you anymore. She is just deeply, deeply annoyed. You jump out of a closet, waving your little knife around, trying to look terrifying, and she just sighs, rolls her eyes, and casually shoots you in the chest with a Glock. You are just a highly stressed film nerd in a plastic mask, and you are trying to assassinate a woman who is basically the Terminator in mom jeans. You don't strike fear into their hearts. You strike them as a minor scheduling conflict. You aren't the boogeyman. You are just the guy they have to brutally beat up before they can go about their weekend.
But let's say you actually make it to the final act. You survive the concussions, the frying pans, and Sidney Prescott's right hook. You finally have the survivors cornered in the kitchen. This is it. Victory is yours. Except you forgot who you're working with. Instead of just finishing the job and getting away with it, your psychotic partner decides this is the perfect time to drop their weapon and host a 20-minute TED Talk. You are standing there, bleeding, exhausted, and desperately wanting to take off that sweaty polyester robe while your coworker aggressively monologues about their childhood trauma, the rules of movie sequels, and their deep personal grievances with the local news media. And then comes the final, brilliant phase of the master plan. To make yourselves look like the innocent, traumatized soul survivors when the cops arrive, you have to stab each other. In theory, it's a superficial flesh wound. In practice, your partner gets way too into character, loses their mind, and buries a 6-inch hunting knife directly into your abdomen.
You fall to the floor, coughing up blood, realizing two very depressing facts at the exact same time. First, human anatomy is incredibly fragile, and this hurts way more than it looked like on television. And second, your partner is absolutely going to betray you and leave you here to take all the blame. You weren't the mastermind. You were just the unpaid, disposable muscle. You don't get to dramatically sink to the bottom of a lake to wait for the next sequel. You don't get to become a demonic entity that haunts people's nightmares for eternity. You get crushed by a 90s cathode ray tube television, or shot directly in the forehead by a local news reporter, and your mask ends up sitting in an evidence box in a suburban police precinct. So no, being Ghostface isn't a supernatural power fantasy. It is a highly stressful, physically agonizing, uncompensated internship for a narcissistic film nerd who is 100% gonna throw you under the bus. If you enjoyed finding out why being a horror icon is actually a miserable existence, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below telling me which legendary killer's life I should completely ruin next, and I'll see you in the next one.